It is a gorgeous, beautiful sunny day, mid-October in BC, Canada. Monique and I have just returned from a month-long trip in the van. First week of October we got back. It's not going to stay this beautiful for long, so we are going to get cold weather. It's probably time to start thinking about winterizing the water system in the van. The water system in the van starts with a way of filling the tank. And so we've got this water hose connector here, and it connects to a tube that feeds water into the top of the tank. There's also a breather tube that comes off the top of the tank that operates as an overflow, and I'll show you that down below. But while we're here at this side of the tank, there's an outdoor shower, and there's a pump switch to turn the pump on and off, which is acting like a three-way switch in conjunction with the switch by the kitchen sink, but it's actually controlled by a relay that's Wi-Fi connected, so we can control it over the internet as well. This is the area under the water tank at the back of the van. This is the overflow for when we fill the van. It also operates as the breather valve to let air out of the tank while water is filling the tank. When we're using the water system, water comes out of the bottom of the tank through this main shut-off valve so we can isolate the tank, through the sediment filter, into the pump, and the pump pressurizes the cold water side of the system. The stainless steel lines that you see here are for the outdoor shower, and they have their own shut-offs so that we can isolate the outdoor shower. If there happened to be a leak in that valve, we can still use the rest of the van and just shut the outdoor shower off. The whole water system is interior of the van, with the exception of the gray water tank, which sits underneath the van. We've moved inside the van. The bed is in its couch position, so we have access to the stair. There's a hatch here that I will open up and show you how the water lines flow from side to side in the van. From the back, the water tank is underneath this section over here. The water pump is down below, and the first place that the water lines come are over across into this sink area. So I'll take this door off and I'll show you what's happening underneath the sink there. This is the sink in the van. It's a quite deep stainless steel sink that we got as a secondhand item from the Restore. The water tap also came from the Restore, but it provides hot and cold water, and it has an extendable head on it. This is the switch for the water pump that works in parallel with the one at the back, and this is a drinking water UV filtered watering system, and I'll show you underneath. This is the area immediately under the sink. The water comes in through the hot and cold lines right here, feeds up to the shutoffs here, which control the water to the main tap on the sink. Water is also supplied via this filter, pre-filter, into the UV filter, and then up for the drinking water tap. The drain, of course, just goes straight down through this trap, back out through this bulkhead, and I'll show you how it travels across the van to the gray water tank. The water lines and the drain travel underneath the bench from side to side. The corrugated pipe is the heat duct that leads from one side of the van to the other. This is the fridge and the fridge cabinet, and underneath is a couple drawers. In behind those drawers is the heat exchanger for the water system and for the heating system. That's part of our Rixon heat system, diesel heater. I'll pull these drawers out and I'll give you a view of what's happening in behind there. This list is a list of all the places we were on our last trip, and we just keep track every day. We wrote down where we stayed. The only place that's not shown here is the Vancouver ferry terminal. Our last night was spent there, just boondocking. This is the area immediately below the refrigerator and behind those two drawers that are underneath the refrigerator. This is the heating system, the hot water system, and a whole bunch of control wiring that runs the Rixson heat system. That's part of the Rixson heat system. This tank up here is a glycol reservoir. The glycol is pumped via this pump down into the diesel part of the heater that's down below. There's also a resistive electric heater inside this tank, so if you're plugged into shore power, you can turn the electric resistant heater on. It'll heat up the glycol, and then warm glycol is pumped around. If you're using the diesel heater, this tank eventually does get warm, but when it starts, it's pumping cool glycol down through into the furnace that sits down below, or the boiler sits down below. Hot glycol comes up into the water-to-water heat exchanger, which heats the hot water. Then the glycol then travels into the back of the air exchanger, which heats the hot air, and then back up into the tank. In addition to the water-to-water heat exchanger, there's this mixing valve which takes the potentially really hot water and cools it down to usable hot water in the van. These other pipes lead up to the indoor shower, and then down there's two valves that I can open up to winterize the system and blow water out through the bottom of the van. The whole system was set up to basically self-drain, this being the lowest point in the system. If I open those valves, the water should drain out by itself. The one problem with that is this water-to-water heat exchanger. There's this elbow at the bottom just below this mixing valve, and water could get stuck in there, and that's why I'm going to have to use pressurized air or potentially pump some glycol into the system to keep that from freezing. A normal RV would just pump glycol in through all the water systems, but I tend to not want to do that because this is also the supply of our drinking water. But as a last case resort, I will pump glycol in because I really don't want that heat exchanger to freeze.